Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us on season 2 of the Higher Ground podcast. We're happy you're here with us today. We've got some great guests lined up this season, different leaders from organizations that I've worked in or around, folks that I've worked with in the past, and my current peers that I'm working with today. We've got mentees that are going to be joining us that are asking advice from all different levels of their career journey, whether it's looking for a job or a promotion. We're here to help. Sticky situations are our specialty. Asking questions about the interview process and getting promoted and the like are very important to us in this podcast. I just want to reiterate that the views expressed are my own, as well as the guests represent their personal opinions and do not represent the views of the companies that they're working for, the ones we might reference as part of our conversation. Thanks so much for joining, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Higher Ground podcast. I have a good friend of mine and someone we worked together at this fintech company a few years ago. Gosh, I can't believe how time flies. It was actually more than a few years ago. I'm at my current place for over 4, so it's been over 4 years ago. But we worked together for a number of years at 2 different companies. And Ori Landau joins us. Ori's a product manager working for a fintech company. Why don't you share, say hello and introduce yourself to our guests?
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. My name is Ori, and I was lucky enough to work with Tom on actually 2 different companies, 2 very different companies, if we're being honest. I'm a PM right now, a PM in big tech, as you call it. So it's a public traded company and it has its own challenges. We can talk about that later. I've been a PM for that company for 5 years. Prior to that, I worked in 2 different startups in the US. So that was a lovely experience. Prior to coming to the US, as you can tell from my accent, I didn't exactly grow up in Minnesota or something. I got my MBA at INSEAD in France, and I was born and raised in Israel, hence the exotic accent, if you call it exotic. I'm a PM, so as I usually say, a PM has to do 2 jobs really, really well. One, tell stories, the other one, solve problems, and that's about it. More specifically in the PM space, you can call me an inbound PM, so I usually had my own engineering teams, working with stakeholders to build features and launch them to our audience.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. And it's interesting. Just for our audience clarification, PM, product manager. For many years, I referred to myself as a PM, as a program manager. Right now, there's all the distinctions between technical and non-technical. All those other bits. But today's conversation about being a product manager or PM, I think it's a little more standardized now, at least in the software space. So yeah, for sure. No, that's terrific. So what we like to do is let's start off with some this or that questions. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to pick up some stuff on the fly here because Ori knows my questions out of the gate. So let's see.
I'm the classic long-time listener, first-time caller. So yes.
That's perfect. I love it. That's great. So let's see. So if you're going to vacation, are you more of a mountain person or a beach person?
So I have 2 young kids. One is 11, the other one is 4.5. So basically what I'm hearing you asking me is, would you prefer to get yelled at in the mountains or at the beach? That's what I'm hearing right now. I will say the beach sounds more like a relaxing environment for my kids to play around. And I don't know, mountain lions, avalanches sounds very stressful when you have small kids. So I'll go with the beach.
Forgetting. Yeah, you're in California. What we call a mountain on the East Coast versus the West Coast are very different. Yeah, we're going to go in a hill and we might see, we may see a bear from a distance, but there's no mountain lion. Well, maybe, I don't know. I don't think we have mountain lions here. Let's stick with the trip theme, okay? We're on a trip. Do you prefer to drive, take train? Although I don't know what the trains are like in California. Drive or fly, given the kid situation.
Oh no, so I would love to drive. The only question is my wife and I relaxed enough and had enough time to get prepared for 4 hours in the car of are we there yet? I mean, hands down, if I could drive, road trips are the best way. So for the folks listening to this call, me and Tom work together in New York. I right now live in California. And actually, when we had to move from New York to California, we did like a massive road trip, me, my wife, and my son. 5 years ago. That was amazing.
Did the cross country. Tell me about that. That must have been really wild. How many days? Did you make it fun too? Or was it like a go?
Oh, no. We had it all planned out. So it was April of 2021. So we're talking about still like COVID times. So my wife was pregnant. I think she was like 6 months or 7 months. So, we had the dog with us. We still have the dog. So it was me, my wife, my son, and the dog left White Plains, New York, and then we drove. The rule was that we're gonna spend only 5 hours in the car every day. They always was like a daily attraction for my son, so he could like take pictures and tell his friends about it. Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. So we drove through Wyoming, we drove through Nevada. I got a chance to visit Fort Bridger, which was amazing because I'm a history buff. No, it
Oh,
was. It really is a beautiful country. Yes.
oh no, it really is. But what was if you? I pardon my own ignorance about my own country. What happened at Fort Bridger?
So Fort Bridger was the last. Remember, like the tales about Oregon Trail and all of that good stuff in like the 1850s, 1860s.
Yeah.
So Fort Bridger was like the last bastion of civilization before you would go on to cross the Great Plains to get to California.
Oh, interesting.
Yep, yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure
Built
you
by
saw some
Jim
of them.
Bridger himself.
Oh, there you go. You
Mhm.
did that. You did the cross country. That's awesome. We have a couple of interesting forts here in the general New York area. There's some right in Manhattan, right? Then all the way up to Lake George, Ticonderoga, and the like. There's a number of fun ones. So if your preference, if you were to pick a destination for a vacation, that would combine history, I would imagine, right? Get a little bit of
Oh,
a.
for me, yes. I'll tell you this funny story. So when my wife and I had our honeymoon, she made the fatal mistake of choosing Rome. And in Rome, basically, you can throw a rock and hit like 4 historical
Yeah,
monuments.
any
It was a
direction.
very
Yes.
miserable lady, yes. I'm like, I had a blast, but
Yeah, that's
yeah.
too funny. Yeah, I've only been to Italy the first time a couple of years ago. Rome was fascinating because what I didn't realize, it's lasagna. This whole city is lasagna, basically, is the way they explained it. I'm like,
Yeah.
first of all, I love lasagna, so that makes sense. But what do you mean? That's like every whatever X number of years was built on the previous generation. So they would take the whatever the former emperor's stuff and build up the next city and build up the next, and so when they slice it, it's literally like lasagna. So
It's a lovely piece of lasagna, and the food is not bad
food's
at all.
okay. Yeah, I've heard good things. Actually, I had the best cacio e pepe in my entire life in Rome. So I'm not saying a lot. I love cacio e pepe. Anyway, maybe we should focus
One
on.
funny story. So my wife is a dietitian, and she likes to eat healthy. I'll never forget the first dinner in Rome, and I went for a pizza because I'm in Rome. She went for a tomato salad, and she basically got tomato sauce with something floating in it. And I was just remember looking at my newlywed wife. I said, like, how do you like your salad, honey? Yeah. So when in Rome, skip the salad, go for the pizza.
Okay. I've grown to like salad more, but it's not on pizza. If I have to pick, like if I'm going to
That's
do,
because we're old, Tom. We're old.
yeah, maybe that might be a good one, right? So, well, we did the pizza or bagel. Oh no, we didn't. All right, so pizza or bagels. Let me ask you that one, right? If we
Oh,
continue, just
I'm culturally obliged to choose a bagel. Come on, Tom. I mean,
I don't know, but you've been here. How long have you been here versus leaving Israel? When's the
no. So I've
crossover?
been here for 10 years. Like I'm still Israeli by heart, but I mean, every Saturday we go to our synagogue and they don't serve pizza, they serve bagels.
I see. Okay, so
I do want them to let me in this Shabbat, Tom.
that's perfect. Now tell me though, okay, so California bagels or New York bagels?
Oh no, New York bagels. Come on, California is
Yeah,
just
that's
an
not even.
imitation.
That's really not fair. Okay, let's move on to the work stuff. So you talked a little bit about your background. I'd love to get some thoughts around, again, a lot of the range of conversation, as you know, right? We talk about interviewing, we talk about manager experiences, hiring, and all of those. I'd like to start off on the interview, the vector. And and the idea of helping folks. What would you say, your best, worst, funniest interview stories are?
Best, worst, funniest. So I'll say best. So here's a good interview. So product management, by the way, follows like a really almost, I would say, curated experience. It's always the same,
Mm.
right? You have the product sense, you have the product execution, and then the fit or leadership and drive. So the good news about product management, that if you really want to break into product management, it's really easy to find numerous amounts of resources that will tell you what can you expect. It kind of reminds me of the craze to go into management consulting in the late 90s, building like early 2000s. So the good news is you should know what to expect, and each company has their own emphasis. For me, I would say when the only difference is between big tech and startups. So big tech
Mm.
is like, so the gold standard has always been Meta. And like the Meta interview cycle is what most product managements actually prep for.
Mm.
So kudos to Meta. I've never worked at Meta, so I'm unbiased. For me, I would say, when I interviewed with PayPal, that was really good interview. All of the interviews were professional. I knew exactly what they're asking me. It was really easy to just match, because if you think about interviewing from a product management perspective, unfortunately, it's not only always about skill or capability, it's about also chemistry. A lot of it is subjective to some extent. And when you know what you're being asked about or what's the expectation, it's really easy to match your style and work on that. Did I lose you, Tom, with all of the reference to companies? Just
No. I'm
checking.
actually, if I could pause you for a moment, I'm curious. I am
Please.
unfamiliar with Meta's style. So I maybe for our listeners, like what
Oh,
that,
of course.
when, if you could break that down for us.
Yeah. And that's across any product interview, and we'll get that specific. So product sense is the classic trope of, hey, Tom, choose your favorite product. How would you make that product better? And then
Mm,
go for the journey of, for example, I love my Garmin app. And making it
mm,
better means that I want to increase adoption, that every person that has a pulse in the world will use the Garmin app. So, and then I will slice and dice the user population. I would pick one user population. I would think about the pain point, to solve that pain point. And once you're on the interviewer seat, you know exactly what like the boxes you're looking to check for. And kudos, by the way, there's a lovely lady, Gail McDowell. She wrote a bunch of books about it.
mm,
And she says that in a good interview, they're supposed to look for signals, right? That Ori does show that he thinks about the user, and then
mm,
facts that were back that in the past Ori did so and so. So that's product sense. So designing a product, improve a product. The second type of interviews is product execution, where how would you rate the success of Netflix homepage or landing
mm.
page? So you have to think about metrics and what is the right metric? How do you prevent different metrics from just going misaligned?
Sure.
Again, same style where it's echoes product sense, but you have to think about it more from if metric A goes up, is that good or bad? And then
Right.
lastly,
And
it's
does
about
metric A
leadership
make
and drive.
sense? Like,
And leadership and drive is just like the classic, hey, Tom, tell me about the time that you had to deal with a difficult stakeholder and what
mm,
did you do?
got it.
Yeah.
So they were one of the first to break it into those three buckets, and then sort of institutionalize that, because that is the standard, if you would. That is the standards. Okay. So I didn't know that they had kind of invented the standard. I would have thought another company had, but
No. So it's kind of funny, but pretty sure that they did not invented it. But to their credit, if you go to their page, they literally have like interviews with Meta PMs doing those free interviews and showing like how each one goes.
Oh, interesting. So
Um,
transparency. Okay.
yeah.
And that's great. That's great. So what prompted you to get into the space, into the product management space?
That's a great question. And I actually have a story for you. So what does Ori do? Ori just tells stories and nothing else. So when I was a young engineer, back at the Stone Age, I was an engineer actually writing software for a renewable energy company. So
Mhm.
each one of us did two things. We worked with hardware and software. And back in 2014, I remember that I was visiting the US, and one of the older project managers, like in his late 60s, showed me one of our competitors, and they were building like parts I've never seen before.
Mm.
I think it's so in renewable energy, you have a thermocycle and you have to cool one of the coolants to make it cooler so you can generate more energy.
Sure.
I'm not gonna bore you with that one, but I saw one of our competitors doing something that we have not done. And I remember that asked me, okay, so it's obvious that they're not stupid. They're doing something that we're not doing. What am I missing? And
Yeah.
that led me on my first product management career as an engineer, where I said, okay, like what are they doing there? And between 2011 to 2013, we had our first POC of actually a hardware product, if I'm being honest. And I would dare to say that that was almost a magical journey for me. So it started off with me just seeing one of our competitors doing something that I've never seen us do, pitching it to our leadership team, and then finding myself in China sourcing for suppliers to build our first POC. Yeah. And then I found out that I'm okay with being an engineer, but I'm really good at just asking questions and telling stories.
That's
And then
amazing.
I went and got my MBA, did my stint in Startup Land. And for me, it's always about that intersection of telling stories or trying to understand where to go and just
Interesting.
hoping to create some value along the way.
Yeah. At the end of the day, that's how we're measured. It's like, did we fill in the blank, hit those metrics? You've kind of fell into it. Like you were given an opportunity to try something new that you hadn't anticipated, and were like, this is for me. Was it that kind of moment, that like sort of magical, oh my gosh, I figured out what my future could be?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, I
A
think
lot of
it
people
was
don't
that
get
spark
to
of,
do that, right? So that's amazing.
I
Good.
mean,
That's excellent. So the shift from, like, was it an immediate transition? A lot of times when we discover we're good at something else, we still have to do our old job, right? Like,
same thing here.
okay, so to break that
So
chain, you had to go to another company, as I'm guessing, right?
I know that I'll even give this advice to people that are still doing their day job and then their aspirational job. at the same time. So for me, we launched our first POC. We showed that this new function actually works and performs better than our existing component. And I'll never forget that my manager at the time said, okay, it's done. Go back being an engineer. You're done for. And actually pushed it. So like, oh, no, I think we can do V2. But as you said, I think for me, the pivotal moment that it was right around 2014 that I said, okay, I mean, it's time to get my MBA and get bona fide more as a PM. For me, doing an international MBA was basically the opportunity to pivot to the US. So because otherwise I would not have gotten any opportunities in Israel. So I went from Israel to France and then from France to Chicago. And as you said, yes, I mean, that was basically the clear cut of, okay, I'll stop being an engineer and I'll focus on being someone else.
I'm curious what made you pick France, just out of anywhere you could go in the world, or Israel, right?
Just like anything else in life, I'm extremely pragmatic, Tom. So the INSEAD program is only 1 year as opposed to 2 years. That's one. Second, I started my MBA in December of 2015. My son was 6 months old. Okay. If you look at the MBAs in the US, the cycle is September. So either I would have to start it when my son was 2 months old or wait for a year.
I see.
And plus, at the time, my late mother-in-law was still alive, and she said that pick France because it's much easier to fly back and forth. So,
I mean,
and INSEAD is a good school. I mean, so.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, and all, like you said, the pragmatism kicked in, so that's terrific.
Oh.
Yes, a lot of times, I my first choice would be like, the food in France and food in Israel is amazing. The very first time I had, I've been heading towards vegetarianism for quite some time, and the very first time I had 3D printed meat was in Israel about 4 years ago. And it's a big thing here. The idea of steak that's made from plants that actually tastes like steak was quite impressive. Not for everyone. I get that. But I have to say, for me, it was what? And it was funny too, because my friends I was out to dinner with in Tel Aviv, they ordered the fish dish, and I'm like, I have to try this. Sounds amazing. My dish was so much better than theirs. And I just felt really good about that in a very childish sort of way,
Hey, it's a win. It's a win.
It's a win. Now, telling stories doesn't come natural for everyone, right? So were you a natural storyteller as a kid? Did your parents did you grow into this, or did you make a conscious choice to say, you know what, I'm going to learn how to tell better stories?
Oh, no. So I'll answer in another
Let me
story.
guess. So you got a story for me.
Exactly. That's that's the only thing I can do. I mean,
I don't think so, but go on.
Back in 2014, when I was applying to business schools, I'll never forget that I reached out to our COO he was one of my mentors, like, hey, would you mind writing a recommendation letter for me? Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget that he described me as, Ori can grow up to be a silent leader one day. And I remember reading a silent leader that doesn't
a silent leader. Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, okay.
Is that good?
Okay. I mean, like, I was taking it as a compliment. Hey, I still get a recommendation letter. Again, being pragmatic. That's
number one.
That's what counts.
Number one. We had a goal.
But I remember telling myself, okay, like, that's something that we'll have to work on. So no, it's a very, very thoughtful choice. And just like anything else, if you do the repetitions, the skill will come.
You get better. You get better and better at it. So, any recommendations for, like, I know, what is it? The Moth, I think, is one. Like, there's a number of different resources that people use. Is there anything you found particularly helpful in terms of learning how to tell stories?
Actually, listen to other storytellers. So, for example, Scott Galloway, he has like a bunch of podcasts, and he's a phenomenal storyteller.
Yeah, he's a really good storyteller.
He tells you a story from his past. He brings you into the room. You can feel the atmosphere, and it stays with you. More from, let's call it, a book's perspective, there's a DISC. I think it's called, the DISC stands for, like, we have 4 types of communication styles in the world. Four. So I think it's called Taking Flight. It's a short book, about 80 pages, and then a manual. But literally just push yourself to tell more stories. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah. You were the person who I can directly attribute to my love of listening to podcasts. I'll be honest. I'd listen to things here and there, but when we first were talking about this, you recommended a couple. I don't remember if Galloway's was in it. I think that might have that one sort of came in directly from my daughter with Pivot, but you recommended a few. I thoroughly enjoyed them. And the thing, I'm still not at your speed. Like, one of the things I remember when we were talking, like, yeah, no, I listen to podcasts that I think you said 2x, right? Or something on that line. I'm still I could do 1.5. I can push it to 1.7. I just can't do that fast. My ears don't work that fast. My brain, maybe, I don't know.
I'm telling you, it's an acquired skill. It's so, and I think so. Let's talk about acquiring knowledge. First of all, there's no replacement to reading books. I'm going to sound extremely archaic right now, but Cal Newport's one of my really role models in this world. By the way, Tom, anything that Cal Newport does, go in and follow it. You have to read books. Paper books force your brain to be able to focus. The thing with audiobooks or podcasts is that if you're able to train yourself to listen at 2x, 2.5x, think about you prepping for an interview, right? No, think about it for a second. When you have an interview, you're a PM that did infrastructure, you want to move to be a PM that does payments. I'm sure you can find a really good solid book about payments, space, whatever. If you're able to do it in 2.5 times the speed, you can actually consume that knowledge, have it ready, and then you have a little bit more to enrich your stories with. So that's how I see it. By the way, the downside of podcasts becoming more and more prevalent, and I'll put here as well, just be mindful to what you listen to, because, for example, if you listen to a financial podcast and they're talking about defense aspects of any world conflict that might be going around, it might not be the best analysis. Just be mindful.
I can't agree more. Or as we used to say, consider the source, right? Where is it coming from? What's the incentive? Those are all, follow the money, as they say, right? What are all the different ways to get that? But yeah, I think diversity of thought is important too. I find that when we lock ourselves into one perspective, we can continue to hear that perspective reinforced again and again. So I find myself going to places that get me a little uncomfortable about, where this particular perspective, but it's helpful to understand. And I don't even want to frame it this way, but I can't help it, especially in our society right now, the other side thinks. And it shouldn't be the other side. It's like, what are the other perspectives out there, right? Not just us and them, which is problematic, but yeah, rather than straying in there, let's pull it back to some.
I'll echo what you're saying. So any topic that you think you have full mastery on, you don't have full mastery until you can argue both sides with depth. Let's go back to something else.
Something about interviewing. I think we were talking about interviews, right? So what is a particularly memorable interview experience that you'd like to share?
So actually it's a cautionary tale. So I'll never forget that I was interviewing with one of the FANG companies 6 years ago. It was like remember that those freestyles, so it was leadership and drive, like it's fit for the company. And the guy, like, as we said, some of it is subjective. The guy did not like me. It was supposed to be 45 minutes, and then it got into a technical scenario, and he was like hounding me for more and more technical stuff. And I remember that we're already like 1 hour and 15, so it's obviously going over. And until he had that gotcha moment, I'll never forget what the question was. It was about API throttling. Like, it was question after question. He wanted to push me toward me, saying that I might consider doing API throttling, which I've never done because I've stopped being an engineer. And I'll never forget that it's one of the few times in my career where I just raised my hands like, listen, I'm sorry, I don't know anymore. I've given you a few options. I'm sorry, I don't know. What's the answer? And then told me API throttling after a minute 15. And that was the end of the interview. An hour and 15. So yeah, I didn't pass that one, Tom, if you are curious.
Wow. I mean, look, I used to operate on less data, right? More on instinct. Back we had some of it was a volume problem. We had a lot of people to hire, so if you didn't get that spark, didn't get that click right away, it was like, okay, on to the next one. I've matured since then, but I think the intent is if you can figure out if there isn't that chemistry, if there isn't that match early on, it's respect that you should be using to say, look, we don't have a fit, rather than trying to get you to make a mistake or to some, like, I don't know. Like, I love the answer when I'm talking to an interview candidate and they say, I don't know, and then ask you what's the right answer. Like, to me, I would have liked to guess. Like, my tips are always similar in this. If you don't know, let me take a guess. I might be wrong, but that kind of framing, because then at least it shows you're thinking about maybe some options if you don't know, and you're honest. Those are the two things. Like, you're willing to give it a shot, and you're honest, saying, I don't know. The people that really scare me is when they don't know what they're talking about. They talk louder, right? It's like,
and they're extremely confident sometimes.
And the confidence, and it's like, it makes you question yourself. Like, well, they seem very sure about this. Right? No, that's wrong. Like, okay, all right. That's. Now, how about on the other side of the desk? Did you, when you've interviewed people, right? Have you had any kind of interesting or any kind of like unusual or questions that were part of your retinue that were not like a typical kind of question?
No, that's a great question, Tom. So I'll say this, and I'm not proud of it, but when I started as an interviewer, I think it was a lot stricter or more like the classic Gail McDowell style of signals, and I think I was a lot more harsher, if I'm being honest. So if I was someone's interviewer 4 years ago, I do apologize for not giving you the best experience. I'll say that nowadays when No, I'm being very serious right now. That
Sorry.
no, I'm like, I try to be the best, I don't know, tester of capabilities. And nowadays, especially when I'm interviewing, so I had a bunch of interviews for interns, MBA interns for the summer. And I'll say that I usually pick like the very vanilla question of choose a product you like and how would you make it better? Oh, it's a joint
I,
case.
okay.
So most of the product interviews are what you can call an interviewee-led interview, right? I'm the
Mhm.
interviewee, I lead the case. I mean, it's not that original. We stole it from management consulting again, because a lot of it is
Sure.
what
Yeah, case
McKinsey and Bain
study
folks did
and
20 years ago. But what I found out, and that's one thing that I do try to be a little more gracious nowadays, most MBA graduates are not that well prepared. So we do it as a joint case. So I tell
mm,
them to pick a product. How would you make it better? It's always the gotcha moment that, like, the honest answer in product interviews is, how would you define better? Would
mm,
you like this product to grow in revenue? Would you like it to grow in adoption? Would you like me to work on monetization? And that's where
mm.
the interviewer needs to guide you, that what is actual success. And that's usually when I stop. So, okay, like, here's the first gotcha. You're supposed to ask me, and then we'll work on it together. But as you said, I think I try to have no gotcha moments in my interviews now as
Sure.
an interviewer, right? Because I'm not, I mean,
No, go ahead, please.
please. No, I'm not here to see what you messed up, but actually, because in real life, if let's say you're reporting to me as your GPM, I mean, I'm not gonna quiz you like, oh, you missed this, as opposed like they're talking about so and so. Here's what you need to
Yeah.
do. So it's a little bit more simulation of real life.
Yeah, I think that's right. And also what you get from that as an interviewer, how does how does the person take feedback? Right? How do they handle a situation where like you didn't get it right? And then sometimes people will clam up or they'll get like, oh my God, I'm done. This is it. It's over. And how do they pull themselves out of that? And it's that compassionate approach that's didn't quite get this right. Here's your, I like that. This was a test. You didn't pass, but here's the answer and let's work together on that. Right. And I think you're given the opportunity to learn, which is good. There's been a number of times where I've had interviews where I'm like, I got that wrong and they didn't tell me why. And I just know, and like, that would have been nice to know why, and I could be better for it. And, you can't always get that kind of feedback. So no, so that's good. So the style has changed more than the actual content per se. You're much more of a collaborative with the candidate, kind of see where you can take them. Understood. What would you say is like the weirdest question anybody's ever asked you on an interview? That's always a fun one for me because I've asked a bunch of weird ones and I've been asked a bunch of weird ones. So I'm curious to hear your take on that.
So I don't know per se if that's weird, but I think one time they had a mess up in the interview schedule. So imagine you go on an interview, they ask you 4 questions, and then 30 minutes pass, and then the next guy asks you the same 4 questions again. And I'm like, okay, is this like a sanity test? What's going on here? Like, why are they asking me the same? So I didn't know what to do. And I remember telling them, like, are you sure that those are the right questions?
Oh, that's
So
funny.
apparently they had a mess up, and then I had to redo that interview.
That's annoying.
Actually, weird questions. I mean, nothing too weird that comes to mind.
Okay. No, understood. Yeah, I like that we used to have a collection of just ones. I know I've talked about this on other episodes. I just to kind of I'm glad this style stopped, but it was, why is a manhole cover round? Those type of things. I don't know if you remember those questions were what would be your answer? Why is a manhole cover?
So, as an MBA that was trained in the dark arts and read the books, I believe the
Okay.
answer is because it can never like fall inside or you can roll it. So that right? I mean, no, but I believe it's because it's the
Yes.
circumference. Like it will never be able to like fall inside into
Yeah, if
the
you make
gem,
the
right?
lid the same size, it won't ever fall in the hole, or you could roll them, you could stack them to an efficient shape. So what's the wrong? There's only one wrong answer. Do you know the wrong answer to that question? I
Mhm.
don't know. That's the only wrong one because you got to take a guess. You could say I don't know, but I guess it's this. Like it's
Oh, I like that.
even I don't know. It's a fun shape. We would accept. Like because it shows a sense of humor,
My
right? It's like
spiritual shape
just
is a
the I don't
circle.
know. Yeah, my favorite shape is a circle. Like, it makes me think of the sun. Who knows? You could come up with something. I feel like that's not a great one. But now, your current, you mentioned that you're doing, what was the term you used? Scenario test or like the
Product
case
sense
studies, right?
interviews. Oh, no. So case study is what consulting would call it.
Yeah,
Product sense. I mean,
product sense.
because going to INSEAD, which was very focused on consulting, I mean, the amazing thing is that it's the same type of interviews, if we're being honest.
Okay.
Product sense is the equivalent of case studies.
I see. So what is the typical cycle? Like how long do you know, like how does your process work? You do like a phone screen and then an in-person and then a case study, that kind of
Great
thing?
question. So let's start with big tech because I'm guessing most of the jobs in the market would be big tech and then startups. The usual cycle for interviews is that you submit your resume. Usually there's a phone screen by a recruiter, which I did notice now that they might try to get a little bit more technical with you, ask you about like what did you work on. But usually it's like the boilerplate of are you in the States or do you have to move? Are you okay with working 3 days a week from the office? Any visa issues that they might have to know about beforehand. And then once that is done, you usually get a phone screen. It might be with the hiring manager or with a member of the team where it's just about chemistry or the airport test, as we used to call it.
I love that one. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one time before COVID, we all had to fly a lot.
And for those who haven't heard the term before, the airport test is if Ori and I were stuck together at an airport for some extended period of time because the flight was canceled or delays or whatever, would you kill yourself? Would you kill them or have a good time? Like a little violent, I know. Maybe not the exact official definition.
That's exactly what I had in mind. That's exactly what I had in mind.
Yeah,
what are the chances of
slightly violent, but maybe that's an extreme.
Yeah, and then usually there's the loop. And it's really important again to talk about the evolution of the product loop. Yeah. So right now the loop would in most chances you'll be required to build a deck, do a panel interview, and then depending on the company, there's the classic product sense, product execution, and more leadership and style. I will say that the biggest addition is take-home tasks, either a deck or a document.
Those are not done live. That's like you said, a take-home test. Interesting.
It's a take-home test. Interesting. The funny way I would used to say that a decade ago at INSEAD, if you go to, so they would do on-campus recruitment, which means that you wake up in the morning, you eat like a lovely breakfast, you put on a suit, you do 5 interviews with Amazon.
Yeah.
You have a product management offer. Nowadays, it's going to be a few more loops, and that's one thing to know. So for anyone that's looking for a job, you have to know that it's going to be a few more hours. Usually, I think now I even heard that they'll give you like an assignment. The hiring manager might even meet with you beforehand to go over the deck, give you some feedback, and then have to present it. So there's a lot more work, not just by networking, getting your CV ready, and applying, like actually doing work for as part of the cycle.
And it feels a little bit like it could be free labor. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of that, but those good ideas. I don't know. We didn't hire the guy, but he had some really good ideas. There's a risk there maybe, but like I can see just now, given where we are today with technology, I could see the opportunity for AI to be heavily influencing the input, not just on the resume side, like make my resume match this job so it's perfect. But a lot of the output now we can generate. What are your what's been your experience thoughts on that?
You know what? No, actually, Tom, I made myself a note that when talking about AI, so product interviews, you have to do it just like telling stories, right? You have to get those reps in, get that confidence. One thing, and whoever listens to this podcast, please take that note. There's a lot of wonderful communities where supportive members or supportive job seekers are helping one another to interview. Just take any feedback with a grain of salt because you're basically being interviewed by another fellow PM that's looking for a job. And sometimes, I was helping a junior PM and I listened to some of the feedback and that could be like really confidence shattering feedback. Oh. Here's where first thing that AI can really help you. GPT and Gemini have conversational modes. And if you think about what I just told you, Tom, the product sense or product execution, LLMs are perfect to be your interviewer in that case because you tell the LLM, here's the framework I want to work on. You pick the topic and you be my interviewer. They're awesome at it. They're very, very accommodating. If you have any brain farts, let's call it that. So first thing that AI can help you besides curating your CV and matching it to get a really good job description alignment, they're really good at just like mock interviews. I think it's not the perfect supplement for real-time interactions because you do need to get that feel. So that's one. Second thing is, as you said, yes, AI is right now, you can reduce the labor on all of those take-home tasks with AI. The only problem is that it's a word salad. So make sure that that's a really convincing word salad. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit problematic.
And can be extremely obvious. The M dash and all the clearly generated text. Like I am continually impressed and disappointed almost in the same sentence sometimes when I look at this is a really interesting insight, but it's just so bland, the content's good, but the framing is wrong. Like so it's just, I think the usefulness, as like an assistant is very good, but I never would have thought I like the idea of using the conversational mode to kind of
Oh,
test you.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's awesome because
Interesting.
it's really good at just following a framework. By the way, here's my take on AI, and I'm now gonna again pose my I know poor childhood, let's call it. So, Tom, I'm sure that you grew up with a microwave in your house. Am I right? A microwave oven.
Okay.
Really?
So it wasn't a question of financial affordance. It hadn't been invented yet. So we did get a microwave eventually, but we did not. I would say it came later, but I don't think that was like, I'm assuming you're asserting a financial test. Yes.
Oh, no, not a financial test. Like, I mean,
Oh,
microwaves were a common thing in Israel only when I was 10. So I have 10 years of my life where my mom had to either heat something in the oven or cook something on the stove.
okay. I took the wrong guess. Okay. Okay.
But then when I was 10, there was this magical device that I could put frozen food in it and I'll get something that I can eat quite fast. Right? Now here's the thing. As a dad to two toddlers, which I love, and they're not loud at all or driving me insane. If it's 6 p.m. and both of the kids are super hungry, I can take a frozen lasagna and magically heat it up in 5 minutes and feed the savages. Microwave. Magic. If, let's say I don't know, magical event, my wife and I have a date night and I really want to cook something nice for my wife, I don't think I'll choose a microwave. AI is just a microwave. It does something really, really well, but it's a frozen lasagna being heated up in 5 minutes. That's what it is. Now, a frozen lasagna might answer, I don't know, 4 out of every 5 problems I'll meet, but it's not a solve-all solution.
I think that's amazing. I think that's right. And one of the projects I'm working on now is a lot of regulations. We've got where my company I'm working with before is sort of this mix of we're impacted by regulations all the time. And I mean, this is sort of my semi-conspiratorial perspective on the world. Companies with the FANG companies, as you've described, have done an outstanding job. I'm not going to apply ethics to this, of tax avoidance, right? They've done an amazing job. I know, right? Imagine my assertion here. And I believe governments are like, you know what? Okay, we're going to find another form of taxation called legislation, right? And we're going to fine you, and we're going to continue to fine you, and we're going to continue. So it's an odd second order effect that's occurred here. But what I've found, at least in this space, where we're trying to find like commonality across legislation, right? So that we can build, again, it's the classic build once, apply many, which again makes sense. How do you meet obligations, or how do you meet regulations or provisions, or whatever you want to, whatever the proper language is, depending on where you are in the life cycle. The ability to condense, combine, and find like text is amazing. Maybe not perfect, but it's summarization and linking and pointing, this article refers to this aggregated object, this one, that. Incredibly helpful, incredibly powerful, and absolutely needs verification. But the more and more you feed it, the more and more background knowledge you give it, it's helpful. So I think that's the stretch beyond the microwave example, because it's almost like a very special. No, I'll give you the point. It's specialized.
No,
It's a
AI,
very
listen,
specialized
AI is
solution.
amazing at being an efficiency tool. Here's my take on AI, and I'm by no means no expert, not even a bit. AI can reduce the time for anything that is mind-numbing work for me, so I can have more time to focus and actually do something. So AI can give me by the way, Claude right now can make really nice text. So I can talk to GPT for 30 minutes, give a prompt to Claude, and then Claude will give me like a really first version deck. And then me as a human can go and work on editing it, as opposed to creating and then editing. AI is really good at task tracking, right? I mean, think about all of the stuff that we have to just do a mental download. Amazing at that. The big thing is that it's a tool that I'm going to and using again. I don't think it's going to be that next level of.
You're betting against AGI anytime soon, is what I'm hearing. Yeah.
I mean, let's talk about it for a second. How much can I geek out on AI right now, Tom?
100. Go in hard, baby.
So in AI, you have 2 big steps, right? You have the pre-training and the post-training. Pre-training is where back in, I think it was 2010, you had Ilya Sutskever and Jeffrey Hinton. They built the Alex project. The Alex project was an LLM that could tell you based on training if that's a cat or a dog. I believe Google bought the Alex project, and that's where Jeffrey Hinton and basically built his name. It's all about just that. It's like literally just I think the name is back propagating logic, where the model knows where it needs to go to, right? That's the pre-training side of it, that the model trains itself with all of those metrics and calculations, like this is a dog, this is a cat. That's pre-training. And then you end up with an LLM.
Yep.
And that LLM can complete the sentence like, it was the worst of times, it was because it consumed all of our literature, it will know how to basically
the next guess the next set of words.
And then you get the post-training side of it, that, for example, ChatGPT should never instruct me on how to build a nuclear bomb. Sure. And that's where you zap it, that those are not the responses you want. That's the post-training side of it. The one flaw with AGI is that somehow in the pre-training, there's this assumption that I'm going to train it again, it's going to become more smart. But the thing is that, and there's a lovely book, by the way, called, I'll send the book, it's called Unnatural Intelligence, and talks about the entire story of AI so in AI, in a nutshell, you have two types. You have symbolic systems and sub-symbolic systems. LLMs are sub-symbolic systems, rule-based, or ML, as we used to call them, are symbolic systems. At the end of the day, if I have the most amazing Go player built on AI, it will only know how to play Go because their pre-training was based on Go data. And then there's this gap in logic that says that somehow this amazing Go player is going to learn chess. No, you have to train it in chess and then know how to play chess. Right. But nobody says that this said machine now is a master in chess and Go will know how to play World of Warcraft, which is another game, but it's a PC game. And that's a part where someone's just making the assumption that, if we solve it for Go and chess, we're going to solve it for something else, but nobody says how. I'm sorry. I'm off my soapbox. I'm going to be quiet now.
No. I think that's one of the things that humans are really good at is applying lessons to new domains. Right? And I don't know enough about, I don't know. I find it hard. Maybe mine is more of a philosophical or a logic-based argument. We don't know how our own minds work. How are we going to figure out how to get another mind to work, whether it's silicon-based or, carbon-based? Like, we're repeating what we're copying something and trying to make it behave the same way. When you don't know how the machine works itself, we don't know how our minds work. We don't know a fraction of what. I'm not giving the percentage of your brain that you're actually using. I'm not even talking about that. Like, just how thoughts work, where insights come from, where, mine is more of a philosophical doubt. That's like, I don't know. I do think I look at it from a very similar light as you do, in the sense of it's a tool. It's very good at certain activities.
Amazing.
Right.
Amazing.
I'll tell you though, my recent observation, and I actually had fun with this, spent a little bit of downtime just trying to I try to consciously get away from all the devices and everything and just sat down, and it was just really this insight I had. I feel like AI has really helped me because it does what you described. It's very good at, doing semantic connections and, text consolidation and linkages that need to be validated. But here, if you step back and go, look, my world we do a ton of AI work, and we're trying to come up with different use cases and applying it different ways, blah, blah, blah. But what I've found is it has saved me a bunch of time. So if I look at my day as this long, okay, if I have this much time in a given day, let's just pretend, for argument's sake, it's shaved off, let's say maybe 30. So you would think I would have this additional 30% as time to be free thinking or time for other activities, et cetera, right? No, what it's happened is more stuff has filled that space. So it's not like, and maybe my overall throughput is not, 30% greater because there's more revision time, there's more, but where's the promise of free time? I want my beach.
Oh no, that's that. I think it's beach time. I think it's just like more work and stuff and other stuff.
It's just, I feel like I was, and this was this revelation I had, like, I'm not getting more time. In fact, I've got less. How did that happen? I'm supposed to have got this great tool to do more for me, and now we're filling more in the box.
One more book recommendation: A World Without Email. Again, Cal Newport, the guy is phenomenal.
World Without
Email.
Oh, I sometimes dream of that world. Yes, if you wouldn't mind afterwards, I'll send me your faves. Yeah, I'll put them in the show notes. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
On a personal note, Tom, really, like, actual books.
I have.
I know. So there's a lovely bookcase behind you.
Not mine. I'm not. My partner's Grey's Anatomy is not my subject matter. I don't know if it's a little fuzzy, but yeah, no, I at my apartment, I finally brought in 4 crates of physical books, and I've read maybe 2 of the 4 crates. So I've got stuff that I won't ever get rid of, and then I got my backlog. So I was doing Libby quite a bit. I really enjoy doing the ebooks and whatnot. I like holding it. I'm really I'm really enjoying feeling old school, I might one day get a wind up watch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, going hard into this.
Go with the pocket watch. Give you some class.
That's funny. I used to have one, and the problem was I kept changing but this is when, everything wasn't tap to pay, right? I had change in my pocket, and I would always destroy the pocket watch. I loved it. It was like, I don't have anything on, not a jewelry person, not a watch person, but yeah, fantastic. From a leadership perspective, I'd love to get your thoughts on, what do you consider key attributes in a leader? Something that you find, whether it's a PM leader or, there's all sorts of levels, right? There's your immediate director, there's moving up the chain and such, like just general principles, general thoughts, general things you've experienced around leadership.
So I think trust and transparency are key. So I think for me, and that's what I try to do or model, is that if I'm saying something, it's going to be not sugar-coated, it's going to be the blunt truth. And because I draw this from my days in the Naval Academy, because at the end of the day, you have to establish trust. From a leadership perspective, you have to know that if you're saying something, your people should not second guess you. So if Or is saying A, they should not feel Or is saying A because he wants to be just be as honest as you can and trustworthy as you can. The second one is more of a software concept that I really liked over the years, is that servant leadership. That it's not enough. Let's say you're my boss, or I'm your boss. It's not your job to like me. It's my job to make you reasons to like me. And really gaining the confidence and trust of your team is key. And then as you go along, and that's what I think nowadays you can call culture or environment, but it's just about that. And I think it's really important in product, and I'll say why. Because a lot of times you have product pivots, right? As I said before, you cannot be a real PM until you said it once with a straight face. Oh, it's not a bug. It was supposed to work that way. And you really meant it. And the real product leaders I liked over the years were really like, priorities changed. You have to stop this and doing this. That's where I really, really appreciate them. Leaders that, because at the end of the day, I'll be very honest, gaslighting your direct reports might work some of the time, but then you basically sacrifice short-term gain of getting them to do whatever you want, but then they'll start second guessing you, and that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
Yeah. For me, that's like table stakes, that without that, it's a really, really big red flag. I would say that in higher levels of product leadership, usually I would always judge my leaders on 2 parameters. One, like how good he is in the product sense of the things, like can he actually think about good products to build? And the other one, for lack of a better word, I would call it like the politician scale. And that's, Tom, I think we've talked about that, but if you think about product teams, go to the largest company, at Google, Netflix. Product teams are not that big. The VP of product might have maybe 30 PMs, right? And when you think about comparing that to an engineering organization, his colleague on the engineering side of that said VP of product might have hundreds of engineers.
Sure. Yeah.
And then you need to understand that as a PM, you're almost of an advisor that needs to steer a ship without any actual responsibility, right? You cannot tell people what to do because they never, in most chances, they'll not report to you. So for real fundamental or pivotal leaders, like senior directors, VPs, it's always about that influence effect. Can they actually steer the ship or make the room listen to them? So that's what I look for in leaders mostly. Can they actually build products, and then can they actually get it done?
Yeah, influence without authority. I think that's the we typically describe it. I think it's a key. That is a key. Then that when we talk about interviewing, like that's something I like to pick on if possible. Like depending obviously on the level, but the idea of basically getting people to do the right thing or the thing that needs to get done without necessarily being their direct line of management. It's a key thing. It's a bit of an art. But yeah, no, I think those are, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. On a closing note, I can't believe it's almost an hour already. We can just have this keep going for a while. I'd love to get your thoughts about what advice would you give your younger self?
So I think the best kind of advice is always think about value creation and be useful. And I'll explain. Because again, a PM, as you said, needs to influence without a lot of authority. I remember when I was younger, I was like really adamant of like, no, that's not a product task. I will not do it. No, I mean, just value can be created in many different ways. So for example, a lot of times when I work with services and sales folks, their key value is that they know that they have this product and they have this group of engineers, and it's a foreign language to them. I want this to do A, it's not doing A, what do you want from me? Then usually there's this loudmouth Israeli PM that is able to say, oh, no, it's meant to do so. So for example, if I could teach my younger self that the value here or is not the product strategy or no, it's just like literally being on calls and explain to the service folks why the product isn't working or translating what they're saying into whatever the engineers can work on. That's value. Value can be sending those weekly updates to your manager so your manager know what's going on. I think nowadays what really drives me in almost any interaction I have is that was that useful to the other person? And sometimes it's just about being compassionate and listening and trying to help. I think that's one of the things that as a younger PM, I was not really focused on, right? I tried to build like good products or sometimes, and that's the part, no, let's talk a little bit about this. So one more recommendation for anyone interested in a career in product, there's Nikhil Singh Paul. He has his own podcast. It's called The Skip. I love it. I listen to it. Big tech is mostly around alignment and cooperation and working with a dozen or so different teams. And that's where PMs can shine in the sense that we know that there's another team that does this, and there's this PM that I know, let me go and talk to him. And then you help get alignment. For smaller companies, startups, a PM would maybe be more hands-on, build, launch, and that's a different skill set. That's why I always try to call it out as big tech. But at the end of the day, whether you're working for a 10-person startup or a company that has 8,000 employees, just think about like, was that interaction right now doing good to anyone? And if it does, just go ahead and do it.
That's fantastic advice. It reminds me in a bit of like those interactions, or I don't want to call them transactions, but those like the sum of your interactions, right? Present what impact you've made on others, what impact you made on an organization, what impact you made on yourself. I think that's fantastic. I like that. That's really good advice. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. And I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for joining us. I say us, it's still me, but it's us, because it sounds like we're, there's more than me. It's me, myself, and I. Oh, that's so old. Oh my God. I can't believe I just did that. I've dated myself as a genuine dinosaur. Anyway, back to my original point. Thank you for joining me on today's podcast, Tori. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Yes, my pleasure. Have a great day.